I think one of the most pressing issues that outside of EVs, the next subject we're going to talk about, and I want to get your opinion on, is autonomous vehicles. Because I feel like there are a lot of people who are not paying attention to this in this industry.
Really, yeah.
That should be.
Yeah.
Considering that, take for example the Model S with autopilot, and what Mercedes is doing with the E-Class, and
right.
You know, the S-Class already for the past few years has had autonomous driving for only 15 seconds at a time. If you put a little pressure on the steering wheel, it's fully autonomous.
Right.
You know, so you know, there have been comments said that, you know, we're years away from that, but the fact is there are millions of miles being driven autonomously every day.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there aren't laws in place for autonomous vehicles now.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting with the Model S that I'm driving, that when you're on the highway, I mean, it works on small roads as well. Doesn't like, of course, roundabouts or cross sections or stuff like that yet. But on the highway, it feels pretty much rock solid and 100% reliable to a degree where you're paying less attention.
Right.
Which is really nice. You can do other stuff. You're not supposed to, but you can. And it gives that sense of trust. And this is a very early simplistic system with very few cameras, no LiDAR or anything like that. One forward-facing camera, one forward-facing radar, and some parking sensors, basically.
Right.
And it drives that well.
And it's taking some data from the cloud.
Oh yeah, it does that too. Sure.
But it almost feels like the lessons learned, and you know, looking at the aviation industry, you know, a plane doesn't crash from one single flaw; it crashes from a series of problems, a series of flaws, a series of missteps. And you know, there was a quote long ago when the 777 came out, the idea that you should have a pilot and the dog to bite the pilot if he does anything stupid, right?
Right.
But we're at the point where pilots may be becoming, you know, they're not flying as much, and there's a debate now as to whether or not their skills are lessened by the fact that they have too many autonomous systems doing their job for them.
Right.
Are we going to run into the same issue on the highway?
Yeah. What I've noticed is that when you drive on the highway for a few hours between cities, you start looking at other things and playing with your phone, kind of pretending to sleep when you pass another car to see how they react.
There's been some photos of that online of some people doing the same thing.
Yeah, and when you do start driving again, I noticed, for example, I started looking out the side window. Now, hang on, I'm actually driving. I don't usually do this, but the autonomous system have learned that subconsciously it's okay to pay less attention going straight forward, and you don't immediately snap back into your previous behavior when that was never allowed. It was forbidden in your subconscious system, and now it's allowed, and you have to switch backwards and forwards. So this is a new challenge, I think, that hasn't been around before, which means, I guess, that the autonomous systems, even if you are driving, should still pay a little bit of attention because they're there. Right. And they're making the driver used to think differently when maybe the driver in certain conditions shouldn't. So that's a challenge, I guess. Yeah.
What is the solution to this? We're going to get to the point where, especially with Model 3, you have 200,000 orders out there, all with these.
Well, more, I think, almost 400,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And E-Class, which is one of the best-selling vehicles ever, to have this technology by the end of the year. We're going to have a lot more people driving autonomous vehicles. How does our education process change?
In one way, you need less education because the car is driving for you. On the other hand, you need to remember to pay more attention than you otherwise have to remember if you didn't have that assistance around the corner all the time.
We'll still always have the people who are car enthusiasts who will love to drive on Sunday.
Yeah.
But when they're driving or commuting to work, they may use these systems. So I'm not necessarily worried about those people. I'm more worried about the folks who need to drive 20 miles a day, and 18 of those miles could be fully autonomous.
But very soon we will have, I think, pods with no steering wheels. I mean, what Google is doing to a certain degree, there will be, as soon as people start to get unused to actually driving, they will start buying cars with no steering wheels.
That would eliminate the problems.
That eliminates the problems. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you believe that the age of no steering wheels, or like the Apple Car, or the Google.
I think it's much closer than people realize.
Yeah.
I think that's what I think. Yeah, and I mean, just look at Sweden. I spoke to some people in the industry. Say, yeah, but the countries or cities, they will never allow it. It will take a long time to allow it. Sweden allows it from next summer, because we have Volvo here doing autonomous development, and to make it easier for them, the government says, okay, for testing fleets, you can have fully autonomous.
Really?
That's from next summer. And I heard the same thing was some city in the U.S. I think it was Hong Kong or somewhere else.
And Nevada's been a huge proponent for...
Right. So if you have a couple of cities with populations in the millions, that's suddenly a huge market in the next year or two for fully autonomous. And of course, if these trials, or whatever you call them, turns out well, it will explode very quickly.
Right.
If it's like, ooh, people get hit and hurt and this and that, and it will go slower,
right.
But it will still keep on going, because it will go better and better over time as anything else, right?
Do you think that we're going to get to an age where there will be autonomous-only environments, meaning parts of cities, parts of highways?
I think maybe, but I think, the cars have to start out driving with other people. So they will have that skill set anyway. So it won't be for the sake of the pods or the cars. It will be just because there is a certain philosophy in that area that they want a safer environment to walk in, so there is no person driving. It's only safe autonomous cars driving. So for that reason, maybe.
We've had, the McLaren F1 had a 56K modem to download data, send it back to Woking. Your cars do that now too, in terms of gathering data.
Well, a little bit faster.
Yeah, not a 56K
Yeah.
modem, but Tesla's doing the same thing. And a lot of manufacturers are taking data, storing it in the cloud, straight from the road, and doing firmware updates.
Yeah.
How important is that going to be to the modern lifestyle of a vehicle and to a car owner?
I think any car in the coming years that doesn't have that system is an obsolete car, because people are getting used to what's happening to their smartphones and things, that their cars are getting better.
Are there privacy issues you see? I know some people will say, but...
Exactly. We've been thinking about that as well. But I think, first of all, Tesla has proven there is no privacy issue. Over 100,000 cars out there driving around being watched over. Secondly, anyone with a smartphone is being watched over to the same degree, which most people are aware of. So that's no difference, is it? I mean, anyone with a smartphone should accept this, and we've heard no complaints. And I think I think that the days of where people feel they're by themselves and private, and cherishing that and protecting that, those days are kind of not there anymore. Systems are watching over to help out and to improve. Then, of course, they can be abused, like a smartphone can be abused. Mm-hmm. But I think we're beyond the point of that being an issue, in the sense of we're not going to buy that car, that phone, or whatever, or not walk into that building because surveillance cameras. Right. We just stop, in a sense, caring.
We don't, yeah. That's our lives go on.
Yeah.
Connecting all the dots from...
And seeing the benefit of it, I guess. Right. Yeah, as well. But whether or not we see the benefit is still there. And if we would say, no, we're not going to utilize modern technology to improve our product, our offering, our services, we would be left behind. We're rather pioneering it than being left behind.
We have, unnamed manufacturers who have come in, plenty of RFPs out in the market today trying to get, manufacturers trying to promote their entry-level vehicles towards younger audiences. And there's been this underlying feeling that younger audiences and younger drivers, or rather younger people, are not getting their licenses as fast because of things like Uber and the ability to get transportation as easy as possible. What do you feel in terms of the younger audience, the younger drivers being able to purchase cars, own cars, and experience cars? Is it true that, do you feel it's true that younger audiences aren't into cars as much because they don't need to be?
I think the younger generation, the millennials, to a certain degree, is very much into cars, because the car games are just getting popular and popular and better. So for our niche of cars, it's just a heyday, a boom from all ages, because, a lot has to do with these car games as well. But for sure, the necessity of owning your own car is, in a sense, becoming less and less. At the same time, the world the population in the whole world is still growing, and China is becoming more urbanized, so maybe not growing the population so much, but still growing the need for cars. So I would say probably in the US and Europe there will be a quite big decline in young car purchasing. But even though they have Ubers and Lyfts and things in China, there is so many more people coming online into the modern society that they will still sell more cars to young people, even if most of them opt to go with one of those services, for example, or other means of transportation, electrical bicycles or whatever. So I think it's a bit hard to say. If population stopped growing worldwide, and if urbanization stopped and these services kept on growing much faster, then there will be a big decline. But given those other factors, it might just level out.
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that we are buying less cars.
No, exactly.
That's a good thing.
It could be a bad thing for the car industry. From our perspective, it doesn't really matter that much.
But for the Fords, GMs, and Toyotas
that's an issue for them, but it's not an issue for the world, right?
Right.
It's maybe a good thing for the world in a sense.
But then how does a car company that's driven by volume and stock price,
how
do they deter that? How do they combat that?
They adapt, change, shrink and survive, or die.
Yeah.
I guess, right?
I think that's probably the most likely scenario when we've already seen a lot of consolidation in the industry.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's nothing to be really sad about. It could be a good thing, but a tough thing for many companies, of course.
Thank you, Christian.
Well, my pleasure.
Appreciate that.